Well, hello and good afternoon, or good evening, I guess. It's kind of raining and dismal and not too beautiful. Not very seasonal, but it is what it is. I have just completed a Cobi Kv1 tank in, I believe, a 1/32nd, 135 scale. Here's the actual finished tank. And phenomenal build. I mean, as far as fit, bricks, the actual suspension system, everything. I mean, everything came together nice on this. The detail's really good. It has one little figure. The turret moves. It's a 76.2 millimeter gun, and as a historical perspective on this tank, 90 millimeters of frontal armor. Look at this tank very closely, aside from just the basic descriptions that I'll give, but this is a pretty neat and pretty advanced looking tank. It came out in 1939 and went into service in 40-41. So when the Nazis, so Wehrmacht, the Germans, invaded the Soviet Union, they encountered this tank and they encountered the T-34. Both of them had the same gun, the 76 millimeter .2 gun. And what made this tank especially fearsome and troublesome was the armor plating. It's considered a heavy tank, but if you notice, it's a wide tank. The weight is evenly distributed and it has wide threads on it, which, regardless of the weight overall, its the center of gravity and the weight is evenly spread out. This thing can move pretty well. It had a 500 horsepower V12 engine. Let me open this up so you can get a look at it. All these newer Cobis have detailed engine bays and without any issues. And there it is. It's a 500 horsepower V12. Capable of doing 22 miles per hour top speed. Not much because of the weight and because this engine is just an adequate engine. It's not a super powerful engine. It's not going to make it a really fast tank, but I mean, later versions had some modifications that enabled it to be a little quicker and drive a little bit better. It had a 6-speed, I guess, transmission that was based off an American tractor transmission, and it went into this tank. If you look at the tank overall, for when it came out, it's a pretty sophisticated, advanced looking tank, and a very dangerous tank to the German tanks because of the heavy armor plate on here. And that gun, it can literally stand there, take hits to the German tank, counter them with that gun in there, and rip right through the German tanks and defeat them. In fact, there's incidences of 1 or 2 of these tanks blocking a road, knocking out like 15 to 20 tanks because of the armor on it, because of the gun. The only drawbacks is a little bit of a slow speed, maneuverability because it was a wider tank, but it was a very well-made and effective tank. And for when it came out, I mean, superb. And the model itself is actually very detailed and nice, and it works good. I mean, it rolls really nice. And as far as the Cobi tanks, the M41 Walker Bulldog and the T26, M26 Pershing, I think, are their best. And this nice. It also came with a sniper with a moistened gun rifle. Yeah, turn them around. And the detail on this is pretty well, which is a kind of a wonderful thing of having these Cobi models, because the more realism and detail makes them a lot more palatable than a comparable Lego. The instructions are very, very good. The box itself, the graphics is always pretty good. Gives you a history of the tank, somewhat. I went a little bit more detailed. It's called a KV tank, named after Clement Voroshilov. He was a Soviet defense minister and politician, and a very good friend of Joseph Stalin. So they named this tank and a series of these tanks after him. It had nothing to do with the design, but that was the name they gave it. And it's a pretty capable tank. It was really good up to like 1943 when it was drawn out of frontline service because of the German 88 millimeter and long barrel 75 millimeter, which could pierce the armor in this tank. And because it wasn't quick enough or maneuverable enough to get out of the way, it became more of an infantry support tank and kind of went to the background. Curious thing about this tank, if you look on the sides, it had torsion bar suspension. Each individual wheel has its own weight-bearing suspension rod on it. So kind of an independent suspension combined with a wide thread, which made this a very, very good, very usable tank. And they had quite a few of these at the beginning. This is a reason why the Germans are not able to crush them when they commenced Operation Barbarossa and invaded the Soviet Union. They ate up all the old Russian PT tanks that were there, but when they encountered the T-34s and these, they kind of got stopped because their tanks did not have the long-barreled guns that could pierce the armor plating, and their guns could not pierce the armor plating on these tanks. These tanks were able to, with this gun, inflict punishment on them. So once the battered and beaten up tanks that the Soviets had were kind of used up at the front, the winter of 1941 slowed them down, and these tanks and the T-34s came there. They kind of stopped the Germans cold and gave them a nasty shock that what they thought was a basically backward communist country would not be able to produce effective and decent weaponry to fight them and hold them in place and stand their ground. Other comments. I was very impressed overall with this. I mean, the instructions were good. I took my time with it and kind of paced myself. I opened up the one big bag, moved all the parts and built it the way they want you to build it. Open the big bag, dump all the sub bags out, and it worked really good. It didn't take as long either. The one thing that I did notice about this, because after I built this, I went into a Brickmania store. Brickmania sells a really expensive custom-made tanks, planes, and they're made with Lego. They don't really hold a look towards these as far as the detail and actual the way it looks compared to the real one. And actually, I mean, you can like I said, you can play with these if you want, roll them around, use them in reenactments, make dioramas. These are the best. And I know they make a lot of custom pieces where the other Brickmania ones using the Lego parts don't, but for the money and for what you get, these are the best. I mean, there is no second place. And they have some nice stuff coming out. They have a Horton fighter plane, German fighter plane, that the B2 bomber basically is based on. That's coming up. I have a few kits that I have not started that I've got as gifts, early Christmas gifts, and I will start building again and put up more videos, but a few more close-ups of this. And I have not seen this in the store. You can probably find these online. In fact, I got this off of eBay. There's a seller that sells toys, and he usually gets these and gets them at a good price. I buy them from him. But yeah, this is definitely nice and worth your time if you want to build a very detailed World War II, early World War II tank. To use them basically if you want to create battle dioramas, go for it. This is a nice one if you can find them, because they only produce these Cobis for certain runs, and then they stop, and then they bring back runs, and I don't know if they stopped producing this one or not, but if you get a chance to buy this one, the KV1, go ahead and buy it. Any other thoughts? It works well with the similar scale P39 that I built earlier. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a diorama, kind of a setup of a Soviet base circa 1942. We'll have this either in the air or landed next to this tank with a little sniper. Maybe I got a few more figurines, and kind of put that as what you would have like in the winter of 41, 42 on the Eastern Front, and especially after the United States in the war, and we shipped them these P-39s to use in their Air Force. It, I don't know, should be an interesting thing. I'm going to try that. Like I said, I have other tanks and planes that I'm going to build, and I will start putting them up for everybody to see, and maybe a couple more Lego cars, and hopefully get some more stuff, and maybe review a few more watches. Not much I'm going to show with this because this video is about this tank, but I have other ideas planning, and I may put a web page together with all my videos, and you can make comments on them and have any questions about any detailed or historical stuff that I might be able to answer and guide along. But once again, a couple more looks at this. Cobi Kv1, very nice and very much worth getting if you're into this building of military tanks, planes, and definitely one to get for your collection. That's about it for this. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll start another one over the next week or so, and hopefully by next week I'll have another video up. It's either going to be a Sherman or a jet fighter. I have a MiG-17, I have a Huey helicopter, I have a bunch of stuff I haven't even opened up yet, but I will pick one or two, build them, and put up some more videos. And like I said, within this next year, I'm thinking of putting a page together. It just has everything. Comments can be made, linked, and see what happens with it. Otherwise, have a Merry Christmas, everybody, and I will see everybody in a week or so. Bye.